Are you ready to save our kids? If children are the living messages that we send to a time that we will not see, Save Our Kids is an opportunity for you to be introduced to a few school and student helpers that will support each child's individual journey. If there is a space or a place to improve the lives of our children, we know a few families and business owners who have made it their business to answer the call for help and provide a solution to those quietly discussed challenges that impact our children and eventually us all. We could not just choose one kiddo to save, so we are asking for your help to reach more. Join Keeping Your Kids Safe as we identify some of the problems and share a few solutions that have been created just for you. Just for you. Absolutely, because everything that's created is for us. We have to figure out how to use it best for it or what we want.
Absolutely.
Hello, ladies. How are you today?
Hi. We're good. I mean, it's snowing where I am. We have over a foot. Like a couple hours ago, we were already well over a foot of snow. So, yeah.
Where are you located?
New York.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I do not envy you, but I thank you very much for taking the snow so that I don't have to.
Thanks.
It snowed for a couple of hours last night, but thank God none of it stick. It was about 37 degrees, and that was it. I was so happy. I did not want that
You
snow.
are so lucky. So lucky.
So lucky, for sure. Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity to come and hang out here. Yes. Hi, Phil. How are you? Welcome to the party, friend. You'll be excited about today. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and ask you two ladies to go ahead and introduce yourselves, tell people who you are, what you do, and welcome to the conversation. I'll start with above me, Kathy.
All right. Hey, folks. My name is Kathy Valetti. I'm actually the founder of Motivate with KAT. So I service trade school and career school advisors and the leadership crew. So I create training courses and I also do live training. What I'm seeing in career schools is the communication piece is totally broken from leadership to advisor, from advisor to students, and it's a trickle down effect. And what happens in that case is we have so many students who are misplaced because there's so much pressure in the admissions departments that, advisors, they're just enrolling just anyone, right? And now you get to financial aid. A lot of these students don't qualify, which we're going to talk about later. There's going to be way more reasons why they don't now. Mm-hmm. But now you get to instructors and they're like, I can't teach these students. And now career services is like, how am I supposed to place them? So the communication is broken. So I train advisors and leadership staff on how to fix that communication, how to empower themselves, how to gain confidence, so that as a result, you start to grow your school and have students who are actually going to graduate and get out there in the field.
That's nice. I have questions, but I love the fact that you are here with me today because I know you are very good at this, man. I like watching you and listening to your message. You're doing. It's not a try any longer.
Thanks.
All right, Sindel, what do you have?
Mine's not as great as Kathy's. Kathy was awesome.
Yes,
I am Sindel Dunn. I'm a stay-at-home mom to two neurodivergent children. I am trying to make it through life with these guys. It's pretty interesting, and trying to help others learn how to advocate for their loved ones and help them grow so that maybe they can go to college and hopefully eventually, or do a little bit better than what I'm doing, I guess.
Right.
That's the only hope for our kids all the time, though.
You're doing great. And you're a very good advocate, because if you think about it, for advocacy, the very first advocate you should always have would be your parents, your mom and your dad. If your mom can't advocate for you, it's going to be hard for others to advocate for you. Absolutely. So my hat's off to you, because I know how that works.
Thank you.
Okay, and then there's me. My name is Tabitha Barron. I am the founder of Keeping Your Kids Safe. I've created a platform that allows each child to effectively communicate their way home, because no family ever should feel that sinking feeling that your child does not make it to their next destination. And that is no place for anyone to be. So, for Save Our Kids, just keep in mind, we're all here to have a town hall conversation about the various things about education. So, why Save Our Kids? Because the data doesn't lie, right? Well, you can put bad data in, and then that can lie for you. But the data doesn't lie. The numbers tell you what we are solving for. So, if we take a look, I always start with this same, with very similar stats. But if we're looking at it, so, I'll just start here. 42 million children go to sleep hungry a day. That's a problem. We know that to be true, right? 37% across the United States. Average cannot read on grade level. That means math and reading. They cannot. That number puts the two of them together. But I did find a school district up in Seattle that actually is sitting at 72%. So whatever they're doing there, they need to kind of sprinkle that around the US, because whatever's happening everyone in a lot of other places, those numbers are very low. And that's a problem. So who are we teaching? Who are they teaching? 49.4 million children in the fall of 2020 and the fall of 2021. That was the number of children enrolled into schools. By the year 2031, they're projecting that number will drop to 46.9. As we notice, we see a decline in enrollment in K through 12 schools. There is a message to that. That is someone saying there is a problem and we need to address it. So it's up to us to make that decision. If we think about it, break that number down. That's 18 million families and 4 million teachers taking care of 50 million children. That is that they are outnumbered. That's a problem. We know that's a challenge, and the reason why there's challenges and all of that. The last ones I will share again: 4 million teachers across 90,000 schools in the U.S., with 55% of them wanting to quit. That is telling you, that is also the numbers, the stats that are letting us know we need to do something different. And I always like to remind people, do the math, friends, do the math. So 180 school days gives us 1,260 hours per year that your children are with the schools, parent number 2. With you working 52 hours in the week in a year to work, you are at 2,080 hours that you're working 40 hours a week for someone. When you add travel time, you're away from your children 2,600 hours in the year. If you think about that, what does that do? Like, where is your child for 2,600 hours when you are not present with them? Because that's what we need to kind of look at. So we know the only way to solve the problem is to understand what problem we're solving for. We know there are a lot of people out there solving for various problems, and opportunities continue to present themselves for other people to find solutions. So today I'm going to do something slightly different, and I'm going to play a short video, and this is going to kind of help us to get into what we're talking about today, because this was disturbing when I found it. And so I was like, let's have a conversation, because that's what this is about. Alrighty, so let's do it. Okay, hopefully I shared the sound. Let me know if you can't hear it.
Does anyone actually know the benefits of our babies going to school these days? Because I feel like the school is conditioning our children to be just really, really good employees that do exactly what they're told. They actually learn no life skills. They don't know anything about money. They don't know anything about credit. We relinquish all of our rights the moment we send these kids to school. I can't just go down and walk into my daughter's classroom and pick up my baby. In the event of an emergency, I can't just go down and pick up my baby. No, I gotta wait, because the school now controls every aspect of why my baby's in that classroom. If she's got to use the bathroom or he's got to use the bathroom, we hope the teacher's nice enough to let him go. Or, hey, you may just have to sit there until the bell rings. That's not conducive of a healthy environment for our children. When our children come up with an answer, and just because it doesn't go with the way the school wants it to go, oh, no, that's wrong. No, it's not wrong. It's the right answer. We just didn't do it the way you wanted us to do it. And for me, that's a problem for me. You see, my kids are very much problem solvers. But just because they solve a problem a different way than what you have taught them doesn't mean that it's wrong. I just don't understand the benefits of our kids going to school these days. What are they actually learning? These kids come out of high school, don't know nothing about money, don't know nothing about a credit. I couldn't tell you how many times I've asked somebody to sign their name and they have no clue how to write their name in cursive. So what are we actually teaching our kids while they're in school that's going to benefit them when they get out? Does anybody really know what X is anymore? Hell, I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I graduated with like a 1.9 GPA. I'm doing okay for myself, but I was told in school that if you don't do it this way, you'll never amount to this, or this person is not who you want to strive to be. So what are we actually teaching our kids that makes it a benefit for us to get them up every morning, make sure they're dressed the proper way so they're not a distraction for them to go to school? Because I'm confused by it all. And I've seen too many videos of people speaking on it and nothing's done about it. So what are the benefits of our babies going to school these days?
So what were your thoughts around that?
First of all, that was a loaded video. It was so loaded. And the thing is, I have this conversation with my husband all the time. And we talk about what was the purpose of going to school when you think of all of these subjects that was loaded into the curriculum that nobody ever uses. And now when you have young kids who are coming home, first of all, it's gotten worse because there's so many videos circling around, parents trying to help their students with homework. And they're like, I'm sorry, I don't even know what this is. I've never heard of it. I can't begin to wrap my head around it. But I think when it comes to education, the higher education is in place to teach your kids how to be servants, to teach them how to obey the government. But they're not taught life skills. Like he was saying, when it comes to finances, how to be a leader, they're not taught any of those skills. And what happens? It circulates. So now these people grow up to be those same adults, those same employees who don't know how to lead a team, who don't know how to treat people the right way. The hiring process is broken because that's what they were taught also, right? It's like, I'm supposed to be the only leader, but they're not teaching these skills in class at all. Yeah. But I'm gonna let Sindel go because too much to say.
Oh man, I was over here taking notes. No, you had a lot of good stuff to say. Yeah, a lot of that really rubbed me raw a little bit. He was right about a lot of stuff.
That's what I want to know. Is he right about that? Because here's the thing. So for the last, I want to say month, I've been teetering on, should I continue this? Is this something I should continue? Because maybe I'm the only one beating this drum with Phil and Laurelyn, right? Maybe I'm the only one saying these things and maybe I'm not enough for it to matter, right? But then when I ran across this, I was like, nope, I am correct. A lot of people are finding it hard to handle what's happening in education. So one person actually wrote in here, and here's the thing, education is a touchy subject. When you can make something go viral over a funny slapstick type of a situation that happens with your kids, that's a beautiful thing. But when you ask a serious question and there is not an opportunity for it to go viral, that's a problem with the human beings. Okay, you want to be entertained enough that you won't even broach the conversation of a serious question, because I see the difference in how many views he's received for that serious question up against what he does on a regular basis. And that is telling us that everybody wants to do this because, oh my gosh, I can't very much think about it. But what's going to happen is that your children will charge you with not doing your due diligence to get it done. The one lady says you have a very valid point. And my husband and I pulled our son out 3 years ago and I homeschool him. Since coming home, he has advanced a whole year ahead academically, even on standardized tests. And he doesn't have to deal with other people's problems, and neither do I. Win-win situation. By the way, he's about to get his first job. He's turning 14. He's already interviewed with the local grocery and has been offered a position. Tell me he's not socialized. So a lot of people say homeschooling is not socializing. That is no longer true. For all of those people who use as an excuse, that is not true. People said this is what was happening. They addressed it and they made it possible for those pods to show up for people to kind of congregate and socialize those children. school is not the only place to socialize. So based off of some of that, what are your thoughts? Because some of the feelings I feel about this is the standardized test is only to let us know where you are. But if it's the only way to progress you forward, if you fail the standardized test but pass everything else in the classroom and they hold you back, that for me is a problem. Your standardized test is not, is you're teaching children how to take a test versus you're teaching children how to use critical thinking to problem solve properly to get the outcome that is the desired outcome. All
So
right, go.
You know, it's really funny that you mentioned standardized testing, because after you asked me to come on, the girls brought home their Ames Web test scores. They were terrible. One of them, she was, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. Actually, this one. Yeah. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where is she?
She is the straight line. This is my sped kid. However, this is what's so funny. Where's it at? This is what she brings me home.
And exactly what I said. The standardized tests only teach you how to take a test, but it doesn't address the anxiety that's associated, the anxiety that's associated with test taking, with being in school, and with having certain challenges from home. So what do you think should be happening for that for your student? First of all, as sped kid, I had one of those, and it's not as easy as people would like to believe, because the people who are in charge of, like he said, the people who are in charge of whether or not your child goes to the bathroom or not, whether they're listened to or not, is also dictating how they address different challenges that this student comes to school with, or even this standardized test in which they have no authority to say, no, that child doesn't. But your child should actually be on a different test. They shouldn't be on the
Exactly.
There actually should be on a what do they call it, Kathy? It's adjusted. It's a different one, because they actually have two of them. So which one is she on? Is she taking the standard? Is she taking the average one?
She takes the average one with assistance. And this goes back to the advocacy thing, because we're not told what we can have until, it's too late, or someone else tells us. And you know, this is my big thing, because we talked about that before, Tabitha. No one has ever told me that she has that option to take a different test.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. So, okay. A couple things. Okay. Oh my gosh, I can't. I can't. Okay. So here's the thing. One of the things I would encourage you to get with Phil Vetrano, because there is a sped area. There is a sped chapter in Helpopedia that I do believe you would fit right into. And it's a good place to be, with a lot of resources. They're going to be able to support you in your journey, because this is going to be a journey, and it's not going to be an easy one. So let's just prepare for the ride, right? But it's very much achievable as long as you understand what your goals are and what you want for your child. At the end of the day, you're the primary parent. So you're parent number one. And with you being parent number one, you set the intention for your child. What do you want them to have in their lives? What do you want them to accomplish while they're doing it, right? And then what is it that you need to give them, provide to them, share with them, encourage them with, in order to get them to your desired outcome for them? When you have that, you will be in a much better position for that. So my recommendation for you today is actually to go ahead and outline for yourself and your family what you want to achieve for each one of your girls, and write this out so you understand what you are doing, what you want them to have. And then what I want you to do is take a look at that and figure out, what is it do you need in your life in order to help your children achieve that goal. Okay. And then you and I can have a conversation offline that's going to help you to bring that home. There are things that parents don't realize, that there are laws in place that do not allow for educational institutions and organizations to not teach your child. And what is happening is there are kids, there are little people, and that's why I call them little people. Kiddos was adopted because of education. They would always say, my kiddos. And that actually came from inside the gates. It's not something that I use readily, but it's something I use when I talk about education because of the audience. That being said, when these little people get into these classrooms, there are some that are more undesirable, and it's okay for them to fall through the cracks. And then there are other ones who they definitely do not want to fall through the cracks. So depending on where you are in the spectrum of things, you will find yourself in one of those buckets, right? And when you find yourself in that bucket, you have to look around and determine whether or not that's a bucket you want to be in. If you do not wish to be in, reach out to people like myself, Kristen Norai, Christine Jones. We have a lot of people in our camp who can help you overcome this. Now, Kristen, she actually is an active advocate, and can help you. You should have an ARD meeting, an IEP, an individualized education plan. But if they do not follow that IEP, listen, I'm going to say this loud enough for the people in the back. If the teachers do not follow your IEP, they are in direct violation of the law and can be terminated from their position and fined for not being able to complete. Now, if they do not have the resources to teach your child, they are required and responsible to pay for your child to attend a different school who actually has the resources to take care of your child. So for all those people who do not know that there are rules and laws in place for your SPED kids, I'm here to tell you the IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act, has a lot of rules in there that they have to follow. And then you also have to be willing to go to bat specifically for that. Okay. So I know I went on a tangent, but that stuff really, really bothers me, because what I see is a greater gap than the average child. And that gap means that your child is with you for 18 years, if we're lucky, right? And then the world has them for the additional 30 plus more. The problem is that if we can't get things straight within the first 25 years, what happens out there for the 30 plus that they have to do on their own, they will definitely feel the burn. And when SPED kids don't get everything that they need, they become prey for predators to take advantage of. And that's not cool.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you say that. You know, before we used to call it, nature versus nurture, years ago, but it's still the same exact thing. So my son, he's 3, and Tabitha, he's special needs because he was born right in the midst of the pandemic, right? So, I mean, literally March of 2020. So from that time, there were no resources, right? He had all these complications during birth, but then after that, he was home. From that point, none of the facilities were open for him to actually go in and get any help. At 6 months, we had therapists that started coming to the house. But, fast forward, being on all these waiting lists, people saying that the classes are full, still can't get into school. It's about to be 4, okay, next month. And I'm still driving him all over the place. Every week, 4 days a week, to physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. It's a lot, right? But now I'm thinking to myself, do I really want him to go into school? When I first came to this county, I moved back in September. And when I went to the county to get him into school, the previous county put on his IEP, just needs to find him a school. Did not have a recommendation for a 1214 or whatever. I sat in the office and cried, because I'm like, you're not telling me he was on a waiting list for a year and a half, and now you're telling me the same thing. Fast forward to now, still on the waiting list, right? Number 3. But now I'm starting to think, everything happens for a reason. Do I really want him to go into school? I think it's good that he's with these therapists, because he's actually progressing. But another thing that's interesting, as far as what he's learning in school, how he's treated there, and how he's at home. I sit in some of those therapy sessions, and there are times where I'm sitting there and he's doing everything he's supposed to do. Soon as I walk away, one of the therapists told me last week, she said, as soon as you walked away, he pulled his hand away and was like, don't touch me, I'm not doing this. Right? Soon as I walked back into the picture, he's like, putting the things in the bucket again. And she's like, as soon, I don't know what it is, but as soon as he even heard you coming, immediately he sits up and start doing what he's supposed to do again. You know, and we're not expecting, you know, the teachers at the school to reprimand our kids, because that's another conversation, right? But I think especially how higher education is now, you have a lot of teachers who they're gone, and some of them are doing the absolute minimum because the way they're treated, they're not being paid their worth, and they're like, look, I'm here from this time to this time, it is what it is. And now you have to ask yourself, are your kids getting the resources that they're supposed to be getting? I think there's more good teachers out there than the ones who just like, I'm just trying to get through the day myself. Yep. You know, but it brings up a great point when you're talking about, we don't know what's going on in the classroom versus these kids at home.
But you also bring up the other point that I am glad that you brought up, which is parents, this mess is not always on the teachers.
Yep.
Okay. Some of your kiddos are doing stuff that you do not realize they're doing. So I love those people who say, no, my kid doesn't, you know, he would never. Yes, he would. I've seen it. Mm-hmm. So when a child goes to a substitute, which he knows does not know him, and says, my mom said I can go to this child care center, mm-hmm. and today is my first day, and convinces an adult that that this is where they're supposed to be, you have to know that children come whole with a whole entire soul and mind of their own. So they're going to make decisions that are not necessarily ones that are in alignment with what we taught them. But we have to have enough space and respect for those people that we've invited into our community to say there might be some truth to that adult saying that child is not doing what he is different when I'm there versus when I'm not. So I think that's really important. So mm-hmm. let's circle back to the video, right? Because mm-hmm. this is all good stuff. This is all about education, and all is important. And Kathy, people might be looking and saying, but Kathy's in higher education. Why is that part of Save Our Kids? Because what he's saying is that if your kids are only built to be soldiers and only to answer the question yes or no, why on earth, what would encourage, who would decide to go for higher education when all they're being told to do is answer yes or no, up or down, then these are your only options in life? Mm-hmm. And that's how this impacts you. Because when you look at it, oh, we got another one. It says, as a former educator, homeschool your children. The educational system was hijacked many decades ago by the Carnegie and Rockefellers, and it is not teachers' fault. But with that said, I am well aware of teachers that should not be teaching. I'm with you, Dana. Plus, there are many parents not willing to parent their children. So discipline has become a huge problem within an already damaged system. So what I'm saying is what I love what Dana is saying, because I'm 100% there. If she was here, I would give her a high five. Because one, there are a group of teachers that should be terminated immediately. Period. End of story. No further discussions. You're out. Okay. I know a couple. I will go and point them out right away. They should not be there. Absolutely. But then there's those ones who are really in there to win it, but they're just being met with a whole bunch of stuff that's not cool. But again, I'm glad Dana said it, because I'm going to say it out loud. Where do the wealthy people, whether they're famous or just wealthy, where do they send their children?
Private. No, actually, I take that back. Homeschool. Right?
Could be both ways, or they pay people to come in.
Yeah.
Options.
Yep.
They have options, but public school is not one of them. And so that starts to ask the question, what is really happening? That, first of all, some of the teachers are actually starting to spill. Some of the teachers are actually starting to tell what's happening in the gates. Like when we said, I don't understand why we can't get back in or why this, that, and other. They tell you it's not, Kristen says it, it's not money and it's not teacher shortage.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we keep our teachers and what do we need to do? So what are your thoughts around Dana's comment?
Well, here's 3 points really quick. The first one, when you're talking about discipline, there's a lot of teachers who's afraid to say anything to a child because of the parents. I'm from the West Indies, so growing up in Barbados, look, you can't come home and tell your mother that you got in trouble in school. The first thing that my mother is not doing is going down to a school yelling at a teacher. The first thing she's doing is saying, what did you do in class that you got in trouble? And now I'm in even more trouble. So we used to be afraid to come home and say that we got reprimanded in class. The second thing is when you was talking about the testing, right? Number one, who's creating these tests and by what factors? Okay. Because now when you fast forward to college, a lot of these colleges have those standardized testing also. I deal with career and trade schools. They have entrance exams for a lot of these programs. Mm-hmm. And you have the smartest students who are not able to get into a program because of a test that they were not able to pass. But then you have all of these people who are failing miserably because they just happen to be great test takers and they pass the entrance exam, which is probably a 4th grade level in the first place, you know, but now they're in class and they're doing terribly. When it comes to the video that we were talking about earlier, as far as how this now affects students going into higher education, you would be surprised how many students come in and they have no idea what they want to do with themselves. They have no idea what career path they want to go down. They don't even know what they like. They don't know what they dislike. And now it trickles down to the advisors, because if you put pressure on the advisors to enroll, they're not taking the time to have the conversation that is needed with those students to decide if this program is a good fit for you. The student doesn't know. They come in with program suggestions because someone else told them it's a good idea. You're going to make a lot of money. The advisors enroll them because if I don't make my number, I don't have a job. So now it's a cycle. You have students going into college totally clueless, but now you need advisors who can say, hold on for a second. The program that you're asking for, based on your personality and what you told me that you like, this is the absolute worst choice for you. Consider this program instead. And now you have more students sticking in college and actually graduating. So it's a trickle-down effect, and it starts from the very beginning.
Yes, that's why I said K through 12 is impacting your enrollment for sure. But the other thing is that what do parents need to understand, or what do we need to tell them in order to support getting over that? Because your K through 12 kids, when you notice that we're not able to take tests, but like she has, Sindal says, she's getting all of these 90s on one side, but the standardized test has her absolutely failing horribly. So what do we tell parents, or what can we share with parents or recommend to help them to improve? First of all, the standardized test. What the heck?
Let me say, I found that you have to be an advocate for your kids. Like when I sit on these meetings, these so-called county meetings, when they're supposed to be talking about the next steps with your kids, all they're doing is reading off of a piece of paper. And what I hear a lot of times is, your son can't, not, he's not doing this. He's not going to be able to do this. And it's like all of these things that are put on your kids, right? And I have to sit on these meetings and say, hold on for a second. You see my son for 30 minutes out of 7 days. You can't sit here and tell me that my son doesn't do X, Y, and Z. And I find myself having to tape everything that he does, take pictures of everything that he does. And every time we go to therapy, it's like, watch this. And they're like, oh. But then you sit in a county meeting and they're like, he's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. So I think that as a parent, we also have to step up more and just advocate for our kids, because if not, who will?
Unfortunately, I'm a believer that we should break the system as it is. So that means remove about 11 million children from the system, and Department of Education will answer that call. I'm going to say that out loud, and anybody can come back and say, oh my gosh, Tabitha, you really said that. Yes, I said it. Remove 11 million children from the school as a whole, and you will have them answer you with, okay, we will make a change. Nobody's going to. So here's the thing This country's run off of money. All of our systems are run off of money. So when you impact the financial windfall that they're aiming for or consistently have, that's where you're going to see that problem, right? And so take away their ability to claim that type of money, and they'll start to ask you, what do we need to do to improve our trust and relationship so that we can begin to educate our children again. The reason why I bring up that part is when I was doing a research on this, and I brought up a specific school district. I'll keep it to myself for a moment, and I noticed that instruction. So for instruction, they got $1.4 billion that they actually put aside for staff development, 72 million. General administration is like 67 million. The money that is set aside, they only set aside, okay, so this is interesting. They only set aside for this specific school district, juvenile justice alternative education program. First of all, I didn't know that we had those things in the school. I understand suspension, but that sounds like we are preparing the student to go into juvenile detention. And that is slated for $579,000 each year, each school year. So I read some of those things off because from a financial standpoint, the thing about all of this, we're putting this money in certain places. But if you look at for this school district, if they put $1.4 billion into instruction, but meanwhile, their numbers drop from 225,000 students down to 193,000 with a 30, I think they're between 32 and 37% students who cannot read on grade level. What are you doing with the money? Because that's where my problem, that's where I start to ask questions. Where is the money going when you have this type of money to instruct and teach children, and somehow or another almost 40% of them get to leave the premises and not be able to read? How do we solve this problem, or how do we start to look at solutions to solve these problems? Wait a second. He says, I know what they're doing with this money. They're funding plays about themselves. It's bad. When you go and look it up, you'll find out exactly what we're talking about. So they take the money. So this district actually had a couple of people indicted for embezzlement. So the money. So here's the thing. Okay, so this is a new question. Just a new question. If you have enough money for others to embezzle from you, what is happening?
Exactly.
Because here's the thing. There are some people, I guess they would go into a nonprofit who's barely making money and skim off of that if the money was available to do that, right? But they're less likely to have some of that, yes. But when you have so much money coming in, people believe people are not keeping track of that. So I'll just dip slightly into this bucket and take, because you have so much money that I don't think you're counting all your beans, and that's possible. All right, Phil. Phil says, "Oh, okay." Parents, let's see if I put this up here. I think. There you go. Parents have a decision to make: invest in their kids, or address the life skills gap that they are not covered in schools, and surrounding them with experts, mentors, and coach, and let them figure it out for themselves, which is a very big gamble. And he's right. Because at the end of the day, when we say, okay, children, go and figure out how you're going to move and function in your life, because we didn't give you all your skills, that's like going to a job. And them telling you have to assemble all of these products, but give you no tools to do it. Tools, no education to do it. And then saying you are failing because you did not figure out how to get the tools in your pocket or on your space in order to build my product.
I think it's in line with what you say all the time when you say, when it comes to teachers, that's the secondary parent. I think sometimes in a parent's mind, it's the opposite, right? I didn't go to school to learn these subjects. You guys are the experts, so you're supposed to teach my kid and bring them up to par. When they come back home, I piggyback off of what you do. When it's really the opposite, the school is the assistant, right? So it starts from home. It starts from building those values at home. And it's like trust but verify. I send you to school because you guys are the experts. But now when you come back home, I need to trust but verify. What did you learn today? Do I agree with that or not? And I think sometimes where the miscommunication comes is if in fact you don't agree with something that your kid is taught in school or the way that they're presenting themselves, it's like, no, we don't just leave it there because those are the experts. That's not the way that I want my child raised. So now you need to go and then speak up for that kid or that curriculum or whatever is going on. Parents need to understand that we are the primary. When my kid comes from therapy, I try to continue exactly what they were doing. But if I realize that something, he feels more comfortable doing something his way and he's still getting the concept and he's growing, then I'm going to let him do it his way. Right. I mean, bottom line, because if I keep trying to push and push, it's going to irritate and frustrate him. And then he's not going to want to learn anything, so it's like a give or take.
So Sendal, so when you look at this as to what we're talking about now, what would you like to see different for your girls in order to improve their time at school?
A lot more communication between the school and me. I get so limited communication, and whenever I go and ask, hey, I slip a note in their folder, hey, I need you to call me, something's up, and I don't get a phone call, or I get a phone call, but it's literally a 2-minute phone call, not if 2 minutes. Granted, you're busy. You just taught class all day. You don't want to talk to me. I'm dealing with the kid you taught all day. I understand. I totally get it. Like, we can hurry up and have this conversation and be done, but I need a little bit more communication than, okay, this is what's going on. This is how we're doing it, and this is what we're doing it. Okay, bye. What did we just talk about?
Oh my gosh, you're so much better parent than me. So much better person than I am. I would not tolerate too much of that. I show up and then I'm like, I just ask key questions. So again, it comes down to, we really need to get in with it. We gotta do some things. If you don't, my mom says to me one day, she says, help her with her math. My niece. So she brings me her math. It was a few years ago. She brings me her math and sets it down and says, okay, help me with my math. And I look at that and I was like, I don't know what that is, but that answer is wrong. And she was like, okay. And I was like, this is how you figure it out. And so I'm writing everything out to his point on this video. So I'm doing the math and I can tell exactly. I'm like, this is how it did. She said, that's wrong. I said, that is not wrong. It is not. What is this? She's like, we have to do it in lattice. And I said, what the heck is a lattice? But things with the flowers crawling up, right? So, I didn't get it. And I was like, I can't help you. And so understanding that part of it, you know what happened? You just gapped a family. You just made it harder for a family to successfully communicate with their child because now I can't help them on their homework. So my bonding time, so my 2,600 hours has now turned into more because now my bonding time in homework and in learning about their day is now gone because I don't understand a lattice or what funky other thing that they decide they put on there. Math is math. 1 + 1 is 2 until we add X and that becomes algebra. So why are we doing this and making things so much harder for the children? And Sendal, Kristen Lynn Norai, please make sure you connect with her because
are connected. Hi, Mac. Hi, Kristen.
He is your person that you need to talk to about your current situation.
Yes.
Mike, hello. Welcome, friends. Welcome. So we got to start doing that. Oh, and I love this. An outside company who was starting a private charter school and analyzed the 2nd grade, 3rd and 4th, 5th for public education in Northwest, 67%. was repeated in third grade, 67% repeated in fourth. That is telling you that what is happening in the classroom is ineffective. So the curriculum that is being built, we need new curriculum builders. So we do know some curriculum builders. We do know people who can help support the schools in those places. But here's the thing. Anyone who is in school leadership and sees this program and says, oh, you guys are just here to poke holes and say how all the things we're doing wrong. No, what we're here to tell you is that we are receiving your products, goods, and services from your production, and we are pushing back and saying the quality isn't there.
There's flaws.
It's just that simple. And so am I saying that you are terrible at building your products, goods, and services? No. What I'm saying is your method is not hitting, and it's missing too many of us, and we don't want to continue to do that. We don't want to continue to have that experience. So we want you to talk to us, your benefactors, and say to make a change for what we want to see. I want my children's children to come out of school and say, I love being in there because I learned so many things and I know exactly where I'm going to use it. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I want to go back tomorrow. Right?
Exactly.
That's where we used to be at some point in time. And I would love for us to be able to get back there. But until we make a decision to say, hold people accountable and say, based on what the information you provided as a school leader and the outcome I'm receiving at home, I dislike our relationship. Either we have to break up or we got to do better. Because this is a marriage. You're parent number 2. And I have to co-parent with you. Because according to the law, I have to co-parent with you. Because school is a co-parenting relationship. Mm-hmm. Parent number 1 is home. Whoever's in that home is home, right? But whoever's in that school is parent number 2. Your bonus parents, and we all have a bonus parent because it's your community, right? The community is your bonus parent, and they're going to help with all of this stuff, this children. But we have to start at the school. So tell us, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to improve the enrollment for students to make them excited about going to college? And what do we need to do for K through 12?
Well, listen, it starts before that, right? Because like you said, when these kids are coming out of 12th grade, they already hate school, right? You hear parents talking about the choice to go to college. You don't really hear them talking about the choice to go to high school. You're behind these to go to high school, right? So they come out of K to 12. They hate education. They have to go into high school, right? And now you have so many students, they're like, wait till I get to graduation. There's no way in heck I'm going to college right. Because I was voluntold that I had to go to high school. Years, right? But now I get to college. No, now I have a choice and I'm not going. But here's the thing, when it now comes to getting into college, you know, these same skills that they're lacking, now they take this directly into school for, you know, some of the students who decide to go. And this is where the disrespect comes when it comes to, you know, not knowing how to talk to staff, not being responsible and accountable, showing up late, missing class. You know, it starts from the very beginning. But if you want to increase enrollments when you get to college, you have to make sure that as a parent, ask those questions. You know, what don't you like about school? And then try to come up with a plan on how we can actually make this experience better. You know, Tabitha, you always talk about how kids are not always able to express themselves because they're told, you know, speak when spoken to, right? But that's the problem right there. Our kids have a lot to say. And if they don't have that outlet to say that, what happens is it comes out at some point in time, and a lot of times it's at the wrong time.
Inappropriately.
So it's kind of like when they get into high school, now, okay, they're able to talk, you know, for themselves. And now you'll be able to say, all right, so what don't you like about high school? What are some of the subjects that you don't like? What are some of your best subjects? And now start preparing them to get into college, because too many students are only going to college because they were forced to. They're enrolling in programs because their mom or dad said, you have to do this, okay, because this is what's going to make this family money.
Voluntold again.
Situations. And this is why students are dropping out. So I think we have to do a better job getting them excited for not education. I wouldn't say education because nobody's excited about education, especially this system, but excited about what life could be like if you gain some additional skills. You know, whether that's independency, being able to buy whatever you want to buy, live wherever you want to live. I think those are the type of conversations we need to have, as opposed to you have to go to college because you have to get an education. If you don't have that credential, you're not going to get hired. That's not motivating anybody to do that. They're like, well, I guess I'm going to be living with you.
Yes, right.
I'm about in my 40s.
Look, I don't mind. You can live with me forever, but we're going to have to make some money somewhere. Right. So we just have to get to that place to do that. And the one thing I will say is when you're Sindel, I'm going to use you as an example. When you go and talk to your children, I'm not saying talk to your children like this. I'm going to need y'all to put your phones down and I need you to look directly at the child. Make sure you're sitting at a point where they don't feel like you are talking down to them. You need to be eye level and pay attention and listen, because children go around the mulberry bush and they take you little trips and they tell you all kinds of things. And I seen that little butterfly and he was flowing that way, but that butterfly was trying to get Johnny. I mean, they're going to say all kinds of things, right? But listen to them, because the magic is in what they're saying. And actually, I learned yesterday that their imagination is actually where they're going to learn the most. And so their conversations, how to speak, how to do those things are going to help them. So that's good. All right. So what do parents, what do you want us to do to help you, Sindel, as a parent with children or in a current education? How can we support you?
How can teachers support? How educators support parents? More communication, absolutely. Like, I want to be over communicated with, not what's happening right now. I want the standardized testing, which is never going to go away, but it needs to be flushed. Stop teaching my child how to take a test. My child knows how to do the work. She understands it, but don't keep testing her on any of them. Celebrating the child rather than you're not doing this correctly. You didn't get this right. This is wrong. Celebrate the kid. Hey, look what you did. You did great today. Way to go. I can't wait till tomorrow. This is what we're going to do tomorrow. You're going to be fantastic tomorrow at it. Rather than you didn't get this question right. You didn't get that question right. I don't know what you're talking about here. This doesn't make sense. That's chicken scratch. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's big. That is super huge, because that's a pass or a fail. Right. So that was the one thing that I noticed, was that it's a pass or a fail. The thing about it is that people want to, life is not pass or fail. No. It's not. There's a yin and a yang to everything that we have, but it's not pass or fail. Pass or fail is only letting you know, I accept as much as you have given, and then you haven't given enough, so I can't accept that, so it becomes a fail, right? But that's not life. Life doesn't work in a pass or fail situation. It just doesn't. Because if that was true, we wouldn't be talking about how many teachers shouldn't have a job, because they are failing. The numbers tell you, if your district is not, if 37% of your children cannot read on grade level, you are failing as a whole, period. There is no getting around that, because 37% in manufacturing is millions and millions of dollars lost. Let's be very clear. Six Sigma was brought into place to identify the failures that they couldn't see, because they weren't like grossly all these failures in parts per million, right? But when you start bringing it down to that and you start looking at that number, you start to see your 2s and your 3s out of 50,000 run lines can actually cost you millions and millions of dollars if you do not make a change. This is all we're saying from that standpoint. I'm going to read you one more thing from here, and it says, there is no benefit at all for children. Okay. There are no benefits at all for children attending public school. Homeschooling There are several ways to do it, or a private Christian schools are the only options if you want your child to actually learn and thrive. We found that out back in early 2000s when my son, then in second grade, was singled out for behavioral issues because the teacher, a cancer patient who refused to take a leave of absence or resign because she was only a year from retirement benefits, was told she had to choose two children from her class to participate in a new program the school received funding for. Not that we were told that to our faces, but found out later from other districts. They decided our son needed to be medicated, to be prescribed by the school's doctor and be enrolled in behavioral modification program. First, we wanted to have him evaluated, which they strongly objected. That's red flag number one. I will tell you, if you have a neurodiverse child, I would recommend that you get a behavioral, you talk to your primary care physician and ask them to send you to a doctor that's going to be able to perform that test, to do all of that workup. And you bring that report back to the school, because their psychologists and your psychologist, when they're on the same page, is a beautiful thing. But when they're not, the school tries to trump an MD over what's happening in the schools, and that's never a good idea. So I'm not going to read anymore, but there were she had 3 red flags in here. 3 red flags, but she outlines the fact that that child was singled out. And then they began a process of suspending and eliminating, putting him in a position that will have him directly going straight into the juvenile detention center and then into adult prison. That's the method. So this person is 100% saying there is no benefit to public education. I believe crack the system, you will make changes, because only reason why people will ever change is because it's a financial hit to them that they're not willing to maintain, or that the pain is greater than what they're experiencing and they do not wish to continue that pain. So you have to do both of those things, one or the other, or both, in order to make the significant impact. And that's my take on this whole entire conversation. You don't like the outcome of your children being in school, do something about it, because as much as people would like to make you believe that you have no options or no choices, that is not true.
Yeah. My mom kept my sister back in 4th grade because of, social promotion. They were about to take her to the 5th grade, and my mom is like, "This girl didn't learn a damn thing in this grade the entire time." It took for my mom to go to the school and say, "No, she needs to repeat this grade. We saw her homework. This kid hasn't passed anything." Now she's IT for NYU, right? But if my mom didn't step in and say anything, my sister would have just breezed on through the 5th grade.
Let me tell you something. Your mama sound like she need to be a teacher. So I'm gonna say this before we go ahead. We're getting ready to wrap up. Do you know that one Black teacher being added to the school actually reduces absenteeism and increases high school graduation by 7%? And when you add 2, it increases it by 32%. I say all of that to say is that there's jokes around our families all the time, the difference between the two different types of how families behave. And our parents, our moms, they're part of the group that say, "Oh no, she got 2 voices. She don't play no games." And when you see, if you hear your mom coming down the hallway, you better straighten up and act right, because if she's coming to get you, my mom will bring the belt. And by the time it was the belt, and the belt was allowed in school, and she would bring the belt. And I was like, "Oh Lord, no, we don't want to do this," right? Those are the type of teachers we kind of need now, because we need to get those little ones back into position. Not to say that their voice don't count, but to say that your voice counts, but it has to have a place, and it can't be this all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Go ahead, Sindal, go ahead and tell us your final thoughts. I feel like we need to do that. Final thoughts, ma'am.
Final thoughts. That video was dead on. Absolutely. I just heard a pop. thank you for ripping the Band-Aid off and letting this be my first ever show. I appreciate that with you, having it with you. But yeah, definitely more communication in the schools with the parents and getting the parents more involved and allowing them to understand what's going on in the classroom rather than my kid came home and said this to me. I don't know what to do now. What? But absolutely right. The K through 12 is decreasing our college.
Yeah. Enrollment.
Thank you. Brain fart. Anyway, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. You've been awesome. For your first time, you did very well. Don't worry. You'll get used to it and it'll be great. Okay. Go ahead, Kathy. Final thoughts.
I would just say, give your kids an outlet to communicate, because this is the next generation, and if in fact they feel suppressed now, they're going to grow up this way and no one is ever going to be able to break through to them, because they get accustomed to, being quiet and saying, I'm not allowed to say how I feel. So it starts from the very beginning. Advocate for your kids and don't feel as if because you're not the expert with the degree that you don't have a say.
Yep, that is true. Absolutely.
And thank you, Tabitha, for having me today.
I like to thank all of you for spending your hour with me of all people. So I thank you very much. You guys have like a lot of great information. I really do like spending the time with you to learn a little bit more about you. Thank everybody who have commented and things like that. My final thought is very much so. Children may be resilient, but that doesn't mean we should test their resiliency. Words are power. Please remember to use them wisely. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate the support and look forward to you visiting us again next week. Same time, same place. Until then, words are power. Please remember to use them wisely. If you have an interest, like to be on our live show, please let us know and send us a direct message.